Andy, I'm afraid this is becoming a recurring thing, is like checking in on your mental welfare after a Lions loss. It's our second week of three pods a week. It was pretty successful first week, Andy.
I
But I
think
feel
so.
like this Monday, I'm almost gonna have to. Should I be a mental health specialist today, or I mean, where should I be at?
And I mean, fortunately, the Lions have been getting fans used to it over the last month. They've been playing the same kind of football. They escaped over the Bears 2 weeks ago, with a marvelous final few minutes and got the win, but they lost the rest of that game. And this week, they really just lost in every sense. They lost on offense, they lost on defense. They got their coaching wasn't where it needed to be, and even the calls didn't go their way. There were some bad calls, but they didn't lose the game because of that. So it was rough. It is what it is. The Lions still should win the division. Should still host a home playoff game. Should hopefully win. Although that's becoming more suspect, a home playoff game. But you don't know. The Broncos aren't the bad team they were at the beginning of the
Yeah.
season. I'm guessing the Lions split with the Vikings, and they probably lose the Cowboys. So suddenly the Lions look like a 10 or 11 win team instead of a 12 or 13 win team, and that's very different. So hey, it is what it is, Dave. But congratulations to Dallas Cowboys fans who had a very good win, which I hated.
Yeah, it this this is it's a weird, uncomfortable position for me, Andy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, because I'm watching the half the game and they're playing amazing. They're playing great. Touchdown, field goal, touchdown, like awesome all
Yeah.
game. They're holding the Eagles to next to nothing. And yet, oddly, you go into the second half and all of a sudden Dak gets fumble and they scoop and score, go back for a touchdown, and now you're within 10, almost 11, 12 points.
Yeah.
And all I'm thinking is like, here are the wheels coming off. Here we go again. But Andy, the defense, I think the difference with this team than other teams is like the defense is really good.
Yeah.
It just doesn't allow those type of things to derail them. The defense stepped up and Dak has been playing much better. I have had a weird relationship with him over the years. I think he's above average quarterback, but is he a Super Bowl elite quarterback? That's always where he just hasn't come through. But this last couple of weeks, he's come through, and I don't think the Eagles are a great team. They've been good, but we'll see. I mean, they play Buffalo next week in Buffalo. That should be a really good game, but we'll see. Andy, there were two things I saw this weekend in football that were really weird. The one is on 4th and 1 and 4th and 2, and this is kind of ties into the to some of the Lions game. Like on these weird 4th and 1 and 4th and 2, I've seen a lot more coaches opting to go for these
Yeah.
long passes down the sidelines and that have like a maybe a 10% chance. It's almost like they're trying to get a pass interference or a holding penalty or something. They have very little chance of success. And that's the play you're going to go with. I mean, some of these teams, like Carolina, did a 4th and 1 from there on the like the 30-yard line or 25-yard line or something, and they've been running the ball great all game. And then and Bryce Young had not been throwing the ball well at all. And they're going to throw that sideline out. Like what is that? I don't understand that type of play calling. I think it's been a little unusual on that set. I don't know how you feel. You like to go on a fourth down a lot, so
Yeah, I think that's part of what's changing dynamic. I think a lot more teams are going for it on fourth down, which I think is a good move. I mean, I think unless you're in a really precarious situation, like give yourself the chance to get that fourth down. You can get those extra 2 yards. And I think what's happening is as you see more teams going for it, the assumption becomes, hey, they're going to run, up the gut. They're going to run a off tackle. They're trying to get those couple yards. So does that open up, a quick strike on the sideline that may not normally be there on that play, try and take advantage of it? I don't really like the call. I think if you're going to go for a fourth down, get the yards, right? Don't
yeah.
don't be tricky, don't be fancy, don't run anything crazy, don't give yourself a chance to fumble or just get the yards, right? That's what Philly does so well. Is that
Right.
the brotherly shove just gets it done. Teams can't stop it. They pick up 2 yards, like go for it. Like that's what they should be doing. Don't get tricky. So yeah, I don't like that play call most of the time, but I do like the fourth down push.
Yeah, I like the fourth down play. I do like that too. I do. I mean, like, look, the percentages just continue, but I just feel like you have to go to that one play that's going to get you those 3 or 4 yards. You don't need 30 yards. You
Right.
need, just the 2 yards or the one
Right.
yard. Just that's your best play. So I was struck by that. And then I don't know, Andy, if you saw the Buffalo Kansas City game at all.
Wild game.
I was watching that game. I was usually just do red zone all day on Sundays, but for this one I had to switch over to watch the full broadcast. I guess it was a good game, but not a great game. But then you saw, of course, at the end with the offensive offsides call with Tony, who was clearly offsides. But at the end of the game, I found it interesting that the Chiefs were attempting to protest or like complain about the officiating, and you don't call that play, that type of mindset. I'm like, he was clearly offsides. It wasn't like he had a toe like on the
Yeah.
line or something. He was like a foot on the line. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was a bad look for Kansas City, Andy.
Well, I mean, it's frustrating, but you're trying to win any way you can win, and in the heat of the game, in the moment, everybody thinks the calls went the wrong way. I saw Ian Rappaport, who is the NFL insider, right? Ian's got the scoop on everything, gets the facts on everything. He posted the official, I think it was like official dialogue and statement explaining that call. This is the NFL. Not every call goes your way, whether you like it or not, whether you're blatantly offsides or not. I mean, when the Lions played the Chiefs in Week 1. They had their guy lining up questionably, close to being on the line the entire game. Finally got called for it at the end of the game, part of why the Lions won, but it was suspect the whole game. And this is the NFL, right? You know the rules. The officials generally know the rules. You get some good calls, you get some bad calls. Most of the time, you didn't win or lose because of the officiating, right? We all like to blame the refs, but, win the football game, right? Win the football game.
Yeah, and it's something like I can get sometimes pass interferences and
Yeah.
holding. Those are like those can be judgment calls. Like this was like, I mean, this is black or white. He's on the line, like he's offsides or he's not offsides. There's no like middle ground. And Tony, he did a bad job himself. Anyways, Andy, I just found that very interesting. Two observations from the weekend. So, Andy, I think we're like a month left in the regular season. I think it's four more games for most of the teams. I think all the buys are just about done. If you were to rank these teams, like there's a lot of 6-7 teams, 7-6 teams that the AFC, I guess the AFC South or North, and a lot of these teams are in there. Buffalo, Denver. And then you got 6-7 teams all over the place in the NFC South. Like, so there's a lot of mediocre teams. I don't know if there's like great teams, but if you were to rank your top 5, Andy, where would you go?
Well, it says, I didn't check, coming out of the weekend, but going into the weekend for the NFC, for example, there were only 4 teams above 500, which I think is very interesting for this late in the season, right? So, and one of those is the Lions, who are very, concerning above 500 right now. But I think if I was to go top 5, Dave, you're going from bottom to top, I think. And it's tough. The 5th spot, you could argue a lot of different ways. I think, there's some good teams I didn't include. And I've got to give credit where credit is due. Joe Flacco and the Browns could be creeping up and becoming a serious threat. That defense is already just monstrous. And if 38-year-old Joe Flacco, who I used to like to give a lot of crap to, keeps playing the way he's playing, the Jets will probably go nuts because they had him for a little while and would really appreciate him right now today, despite Zach Wilson's single good game. But they look good. But nonetheless, I think I'd put Miami at number 5 because they can be really good, but they can also blow it. And one of the teams they did lose pretty hard to was back in Week 7. They lost to Philly, who I would still put at number 4, even though they're playing not as strong as I think they can. They're still really dangerous, and when they're playing well, they're really, really hard to beat. So I'd go Miami, Philly. I'd put your Dallas Cowboys at number 3, Dave. I'd put San Fran right above them. And again, hard as it is for me to do this, I might be wrong about John Harbaugh. He might actually be a good coach. He's gotten a lot of wins with a lot of different teams, and as great as Lamar is, he also won with Joe Flacco, and they're a much more complete team than just a single player, even as good as Lamar is playing. I've got Baltimore number 1 right now, not only because they absolutely devastated the Lions, but I think they're playing the most consistent good football, right? San Fran's playing great, but also dropped three in a row. And I still am not sold on Brock Purdy. I think he's a, you know, decent quarterback playing on an absolutely stacked team with a really good coach. I don't know that he's going to be able to get it done under pressure when he faces one of these teams that's really going to come after him, or if things start to break down elsewhere in the game. So Baltimore 1, San Fran 2, Dallas 3, Philly 4, Miami 5. That's my top 5, Dave. How about you?
Yeah, I have the same five with a little different order of the top three though. So I'm going with Miami too. I think Miami's at number five. I think they're a really solid team. I think they are going to be able to beat most teams, especially those like mediocre to good teams. I think against the really tough teams, I think that's where it's. And when you face a tough defense, I think that's probably where they're going to struggle a little bit if when they get pressure. But they're well coached. I think they play pretty well. So I think I like where they're at. Number four, I'm going to go the Eagles too. I think they're good. I don't think they're great. I think they do have some deficiencies that they got to work through. They don't really have a running game. Last year they had Miles Sanders. This year they got Swift, your guy from
Yeah, they've got Swift, man.
But you know what was interesting is like they weren't running the ball at all, and then they started the second half against the Cowboys, and they ran three straight plays, and they gained like almost 20 yards,
Yeah.
and then they stopped. They just stopped running the ball, and I didn't understand that because I was like they're making some pretty good headway there, but I just don't think that they have the running game that they did last year on that front, and I think Hurts is hurt too. You know, I think that matters. Number three, I'm going to go with Baltimore here. This is where I'll switch it up a little bit. I put Baltimore there. The Rams, that's another team where I thought that team was like set up for like a 2-15 season or 3-14. Like Matt Stafford had like spinal issues and all this other stuff, and yet they're not they're coming away a little weird. But that was a good game yesterday. I just don't like the feel I get from Baltimore all the time. And I think I think he's a good coach, but I think in some spots he just makes some weird decisions. So we'll see about that one. Number two, I'm going to go with the Cowboys. I hate putting them here, but I do think that that defense is just so good. I think that's where they would separate themselves from Baltimore. I think their defense would give Baltimore a tough time, even with Lamar. And I just don't think the same thing of Baltimore's defense, so it's good. And then I think San Francisco, when they are healthy, and when that means Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, when they are healthy, they're 15 points better than the next team, and they did that by beating up on the Cowboys, beating up on the Eagles. They clearly dominate. Now, if they're not healthy and Purdy has to do, like to your point, I think Purdy is. I think he's a good quarterback. He's probably slightly above average. But if you don't have Samuel and McCaffrey, that's a much different team. But I do think their defense is nasty too. So that's where I'd go. So I'd go with Miami, Philly, Baltimore, Dallas, and the Niners there. So good stuff.
So we agree on the placement of Dallas and San Fran in relation to each other, which is the important thing. Because I'll tell you this, Dave, my first 8 years or so in the U.S., started to find football. I was a big Niners fan, right? I switched over to the Lions right around 1990 after the Niners won the Super Bowl the second time against the Bengals. I was like, okay, I'm making a switch here. But I grew up loving the Niners, got a soft spot for them. And the one thing, the one annual tradition that brings me almost as much joy as Christmas is the Niners defeating the Cowboys in the playoffs during the Mike McCarthy era. So at least we both agree that that's still most likely what happens here. So as the Lions make the playoffs, maybe win their first playoff game at home, maybe not, I'll be comforted watching San Francisco eliminate the Cowboys again. And I can only hope that for this third straight year, the Cowboys find an absolutely ridiculous way to lose the game on the final play, which only Mike McCarthy can deliver with such excellence. So we'll see what happens, Dave. Good football recap here.
I didn't think anything could top that first one. And then last year was just utter, like,
greatest play in NFL history. Greatest
exactly
play in NFL history. If anybody listening has not seen that somehow, please search for it or reach out and I will send it to you. I will deliver it to your house so you can watch it. You can watch it on my tablet because that is the greatest play in NFL history. Officially ended Ezekiel Elliott's career, really. I mean, he's still playing, but he's done after that. And the Cowboys looked absolutely hurt. I don't know how McCarthy has a job. let's move on, Dave, because I'm gonna
You
get
you
I'm gonna get silly.
the one play to save your season, and that's what you're going to pull out. So that was great. That was great. So let's move on, Andy. Let's go on. Let's go on. So
So
Andy,
Andy,
what top? Yes, I got to get better about the transition, Andy. So good transition slide there. All right. So one thing we didn't talk about last week, I wanted to talk a little bit um, was traditions, Christmas traditions. We talked about holidays. We talked about all the good stuff. We talked about some of our watches that we like to do, and some of the things we like to do around the holidays. What I want to ask you, like, what's that one family tradition that you guys have gotten that you really look forward to during the season and enjoy? I mean, it could be a specific event. It could be something you like to do together. You know, it could be a service you attend or something. You know, what's that Jabor family
yeah,
holiday season like?
yeah. So there's lots of things I was thinking about. So I was like, there's lots of little things that I realize we do as traditions. I hadn't really thought about that are really, I love them, right? And there's so many. I mean, just from starting, Thanksgiving's over, immediately start decorating. That's the first thing. I love that, right? Just kicks off the season, a month of Christmas celebration and holiday spirit. And like, I love that. And I walk my dogs and I look at the houses that, are late decorators, and I mentally shun them for not getting on the ball quicker, right? There's a lot to love. There's things we do as a family. There's, games we play. We've had the Elf on the Shelf. We do it our own way every year. That's a fun tradition. We still do it for fun. But I think the thing that I enjoy the most, growing up, we used to get together with my family, my extended family across the street for Christmas Eve every year. Share and celebrate and Christmas carols and opening gifts and whatnot. And we still do that, with family here today. But what I really love, I think, is when our family gets together, Christmas Eve evening, and just my immediate family, the four of us sit down and we open one gift, and I just think it's something fun. It gets everybody sort of excited and feeling a little bit of connection, and sort of Christmas is coming, and even with my boys being older, it's still really fun to do that. And I think that's probably like the single moment tradition wise. I'm like, okay, it's really Christmas time, and it's really fun, and just it's a really fun way to enjoy the season. So I think there's lots of things I can think of. I think it's probably the one that's been consistent, and I probably get the most single joy out of. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, so I'm similar. Like so it's interesting. My youngest, our youngest daughter, who's like brings so much like fun and
Yeah,
excitement back
yeah,
into these holidays. Because again, nothing against the older kids, but they know the routines.
different.
They know what this is, a lot of this stuff, and so with her, she brings a lot of these excitement back in, and so she like. I don't know, earlier this year, she broke out her like little pad and pencils, like, "Hey, Dad, what are all of our family traditions like for all the holidays?" And so we went through each of the holidays and we said, "Well, this is what we do." And the fun one, of course, is with the Christmas time and the holidays after Thanksgiving. But it is like, oh, that's that night after Thanksgiving, we watch Christmas Vacation and then start decorating the next day. The girls always go Black Friday shopping, and that's stuff to get into the season. And when we were in Maryland, we used to go and cut our tree down. So that
Yeah,
would always be a fun family thing to do. In Florida, you don't have Christmas trees that grow down there. So you have to go to the lot and just pick one out. So we didn't, but here in North Carolina, we actually went out and picked a Christmas tree this year. And we did that with her so she could get that, family tradition
that's cool.
aspect of it. She always feels like she's 10 years younger than the others. Than our other ones, and so she always feels like she misses out. So we did that part of it. But I'm gonna go like the one that I really just enjoy, like, is also Christmas Eve. It's just a fun day. We used to do things where we'd go to somebody's house for like a Christmas Eve brunch or something, and have that. But really, when for us, it would go to like family church and have a service, but then we'd go and have, of all things, a family dinner, but we'd always go to hibachi, Japanese
Oh,
hibachi,
really?
on Christmas Eve night. So um, on Christmas Eve, and so that started as just a weird thing. We started with another family going when we were in Maryland a lot, and that was really fun to do. And then we just continued it on. And even though we moved from place to place, we still kept that one on. And we go home and like the kids open one present from each other, and
Yeah.
that's always fun. So very similar type of thing. But then everyone gets a little giddy and goes to sleep or tries to go to sleep, and then we wake up the next morning and have some fun there with mimosas or like monkey bread and stuff like that. So that's a similar type thing, but it is just that whole 24-48 hours around
Yeah.
Christmas Day.
Yeah, for sure. And then enjoying the day itself is fun for sure. Yeah, that's good. Well, yeah, we haven't had Christmas Eve hibachi. Maybe let's check it out. I'm always down for a good some good freshly grilled shrimp or chicken or whatever the chef wants to pop into my mouth from his. So that's good fun, Dave. Good tradition, good fun. Christmas time's great. We should also say to any Jewish listeners, Happy Hanukkah, as Hanukkah is underway
Yep.
right now, and it's just a great time of the year. Despite all the negativity around us, all the crazy news, all the things we can't control, all the things that raises everybody's blood pressure, it's nice to be able to sort of separate from that and just enjoy family and our blessings and all the good things that we have. So I'm glad you guys have some good family traditions. I'm glad your youngest gets to enjoy some of those, despite being a couple years younger than her older sibling. So it's good fun. I'm really excited. Our boys come back from college this week, and we're super excited about that. So really get into the spirit of things now, I think.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, ours are coming in town this weekend, and so we'll have a limited time with our oldest. He's flying in for just about 4 or 5 days with us. It'll be fun to have him in town, and then he goes back out to Seattle. But it'll be a good time to have him there. But Andy, you said something there about all the craziness in our life, and so I want to transition again. I'll give you a pause. Transition again, and Andy, the news and I guess the information out on socials is quite challenging these days. And I
Yeah.
have been a long Twitter person. I've been on for some time now. But I'm almost at my end, I think, with X. And I'll say that because this weekend I learned that Michelle Obama is actually Michael Obama, a
Of course.
trans male. So I
Old
learned
news. Old news. Yeah, old news.
um, the explosion in Arlington, we talked about that a couple
Yeah, of
times. I'm continuing to learn new things about the setup job there, and that in
course.
fact, parents there were CIA operatives and were working for espionage companies, and therefore it was a convenient death by the individual there. Where
Inside job. Inside job. Yeah.
speaking of the Obamas, Andy, there's a new movie out that the Obamas produced about like kind of end of the world type of thing. And it was just interesting that the Obamas produced this movie when they own so much and control so much. The fingers are moving. And
Illuminati.
you'll be happy to know Andy Q is still alive and well. And all of these things are neatly falling into place. So I'm almost at my end on X. I have to move off of it. I have to go somewhere else, but I don't know where else to go, Andy.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned. I liked what Twitter had, where I could go get my news, quick updates,
Yeah.
figure out some of the headlines or things as I set out my day. I like Instagram, like I'll go there, but that's different. I don't go there for news. I go there
Yeah.
for just stupid stuff. But what I don't know. Where are you at on socials, Andy?
Yeah. So, I mean, I really enjoyed Twitter a lot. I got a lot of value out of it professionally. I enjoyed it personally. It was great. I really liked it. And Dave, I always believe with technology, it's important to pay for what you really use. Dabble with it for free, and then if you like it, I think you pay for it. And so I was a Twitter Blue subscriber prior to Elon Musk. I just felt like it was the right thing to pay a couple of bucks a month to say, hey, I appreciate this. I'm going to pay a little bit for it and contribute to its operations. And it got worse and worse as a platform. I didn't like it. I didn't care to support it. So first I stopped paying for it, and then I stopped using it as much. Now the only thing that keeps me on there, to be honest, Dave, is there's a few people that I select to occasionally, reach out to, and so I'll reach out to them, and then reposting your Metaverse or next post. That's the only thing that I do, and I think I'm even done with that at this point. I started using Blue Sky and Threads, months back. I'm minimally on Blue Sky. I don't love it. A lot of people, in my work life are there, but I just don't really careful, and I hate posting things twice. I hate posting things twice. Um, and Threads, to be honest, it was like a big hallway where there were no rooms. It was like just a bunch of people walking around posting stuff to nobody about nothing for a long time. It's gotten a lot better, and they've released some things. One suspicion is that it launches in Europe this week. There's a countdown clock going, on Threads on the website, and assumption is that's for the European release they really want to get to for the end of the year. Two, they added a single tag option, which is really nice and clean, so you can topically, identify things. That blew up over the weekend. I mentioned Ian Rappaport earlier from the NFL. He started posting NFL threads, a lot of response to that, and he's posting. And you've seen a lot of people migrate over the last 2 weeks. There have been a couple waves of people. The last 2 weeks, a lot more journalists, a lot more sports folks coming over. And that's what starts to build the community. And with the tags, people are starting to be able to find communities of interest, unlike before. So they're putting a lot of effort into making it more enjoyable. And it's just, I mean, it's, as a device, or not as a device, excuse me, as a platform, it's just a lot more enjoyable than Blue Sky is. So I'm enjoying Threads. I like it. I like the connection to Instagram. I was never a big Instagram user, but I don't mind this connection with it. So I'm actually enjoying it. I never, thought I would really like it as much, but it's pretty good. So I would say Threads is definitely a lot more exciting. Again, a lot more people that you probably know, like, and have followed on Twitter are there now. And at this point, it lacks the absolute nonsense and bananas ideas that are shared on X, which is just getting worse and worse. I'm sure eventually that's going to change a little bit, but for now, it's a little bit more enjoyable. Definitely a left-leaning platform at this point. A lot more folks from one political perspective to the other jumped over there quickly, I would say. But there's a lot more life coming to it. It's got more voices, and so that's something to maybe check out. But I think I am officially retiring from X, and I do enjoy Threads, so maybe we'll see you and others there. And maybe, Dave, if any listeners have their own holiday traditions they'd like to share, we'd love to hear about that. Maybe on Threads, so we can find us there.
Yeah, definitely connect with us on that. I went over to Threads when it first started, and I did want to check it out. I felt it was too much like Instagram. I was like, I already got Instagram. I don't need the same. I don't want to see the same things I've got there.
Yeah.
But they are connecting them now. Like Instagram, you can start seeing Thread stuff on there, and I have started moving over back and forth a little bit. Maybe I just need to give it a little bit more of a try. Maybe start expanding some of the followers I have on Threads that are more news related
Yeah.
versus the stuff on Instagram, and such. So maybe I do need to do that, and so maybe I'll give it another chance. But yeah, if any users, any listeners out there have any other alternatives, please let us know. Reach out to us on any of those. Both Andy and I are on X and Threads, though Andy and I are likely coming off of X. We won't be checking that maybe as much as we normally do, but please reach out to us on the other platforms as well. So with that, Andy, we covered a lot today. We went through a bunch of things. Probably on Wednesday, I'm looking to go more politics, looking at politics on Wednesday, and maybe we may have another Waste Wednesday as well, Andy. So it'd be always stay tuned. I guess it depends on what I see on X lately. So with that, Andy, I will talk to you next time.
All right.